Hi everyone, it's Jeremy here again. I'm going to pick up where I left off in the last video and get to talking about our stroke and striking the drum. Okay, so last video we covered our grip, our hand position, and we got to here. Okay, we discovered the wrist is going to be our mode of getting the stick up and down. We talked about the angles of the wrist, we talked about the fulcrum of the stick, all of those good things. Now, let's put it all together and talk about how we're actually going to do a stroke. So, to talk about this wrist with the stick, just deal with one hand for the moment. We're going to put it in the middle of the drum, and then we're going to bend the wrist up, and just point the stick up, okay? Now, we're going to practice really slowly, just tracking the stick up and down, only with the wrist. Notice that this forearm isn't moving, okay? I'm not worrying what's happening with the tip of the stick on the drum just yet. I'm just learning that we're going to go up and down, and ideally, it's going directly up and down. We don't want to be going off like into different angles or working in a circle. We're not doing any of this stuff or flying off. When we come up from the drum, we're coming straight up. Okay, so if that's our motion, obviously there's a bit more to it when we want to hit the drum. So, let's stop here. And then, the stroke itself is straight down and straight up. Kind of quick, okay. So ideally it's this. Notice I'm starting and ending at the same spot. The analogy is commonly used is bouncing. It's like bouncing a basketball or a tennis ball, is that we're pushing down, and after a while you'll start to feel that there's actually some bounce here. The drum has a rubbery feel. I mean, I'm using a practice pad and it is kind of rubbery. Okay? It actually is pushing the stick back up. Alright? Now, some people find this very instinctive, and it makes sense straight away that that's what's going to happen. When you go down, the drum pushes the stick up, and boom, you've got your stroke. But a lot of students, when they go to do this, this is going to happen. Or when the stick is hitting the drum, it's not hitting it cleanly, where it's either getting stuck down there. Notice that when that happens, I'm just not lifting up. Or here, we're kind of squashing it, okay? Now all these techniques are going to come in later. These are all actually vital things, but at the very moment, we just need to get it to come up in one go. So, as I said, some people will find this very natural and instinctive, some people won't. Okay, if this is happening, here's something I suggest. Okay, take out a grip. Fulcrum like this, and I want you to keep that fulcrum with the thumb and the forefinger there, but we're going to stick these fingers off, okay? Now, what this is going to do is, when you bend the wrist, you might notice the stick then has a bit of a waggle, okay? You can hear it when I flick it, it's actually hitting the back of my hand, okay? That's because there's some movement now. Keep the fulcrum as it is, and now let's try the same exercise, okay? Fingers out, and the same thing, wrist, and hopefully what's happened is that waggle that we had is allowing the stick just a little bit of freedom at the bottom to get a single bounce, a single stroke up. Down and up in one go. Okay. Now, obviously, this is a terrible grip. Okay. Hopefully, if you've done this, you've noticed that the back of your hand is getting tense and maybe a little sore. Good. Okay? Because this is terrible. But for a short time, this just getting you finding this feeling of bounce, okay? Of the stick actually being its own free agent right at that moment and coming back up. That's the feeling we want, but we obviously don't want this horrible, tense, gross feeling on the back of our hands, and we want our fingers wrapped around as normal to get this to work as so. Now this might take 5 minutes, it might take a week. It doesn't matter. Keep trying, but that's our goal. And you can do it on anything. It doesn't need to be a drum, it can be a table, a pillow. You're just trying to think about the fact that when the stick goes down, it has to come back up. So when we come to do this repeating, we're always going to start from the up position, okay? And this brings us to our first exercise that I'm probably teaching everyone in their first lesson. 4 and a hand, okay? We start and end at the same spot. And pause. Notice there's a little pause each time the stick comes up. This is just to make sure that everything's working properly. Now, as it goes faster, what happens is that that pause disappears. There's no room for it. And perpetual motion takes over, and the stick actually doesn't stop ever moving. This is a nice stage to be, because you can't do this without feeling that the drum is actually bouncing. If we're stopping at any point, we'll get this, and there's actually a slight pause when that's happening. So just, if that's happening, reassess, stick the fingers out for a little bit, have a little bounce around, just try getting this thing to happen on its own, and persist. It will get there. Four in a hand is kind of the first exercise, really, I still practice it now, a million years after I started learning drums. Keep doing it. Okay? Just every time you pick up the sticks, give it a go. Okay, next exercise to incorporate is to bring both hands together and alternate them. And the way I suggest doing this is to play some slow strokes and then double the speed. We could think of these as crotchets, 2, 3, and quavers, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, etc. And then we can double the length of each of those to make it a bit more of an endurance test. And off you go. They're kind of probably the first basic exercises that I'd introduce, working on each hand separately, 4 in a hand, and then alternating to get the beginnings of coordination, and then the rudiment that we call a single stroke roll, which is just alternating our hands. They're kind of the first basic exercises that should get you going.